Audience.
Should probably be a little higher on that side.
Yep.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is LarryRowe, and tonight I'm going to be talking about research and development tax credits. Just to give you a little bit of background, I've spent the last 8 years working for Deloitte Tax, so this is my specialty. This is my area that I have a lot of experience with. So let me give you just a little bit of about a background of the research credit and how it works. So the research credit, Section 41, which can be found on irs.gov under the Internal Revenue section of 1986. This came about in the early 1980s, around 1981, when the U.S. economy was in an incredible recession, only second to the Great Depression of the 1930s. So Congress got together and they wanted to do something that kind of kickstart the economy. And you know, how do you do that? You get people out to spend money. So what they did was they came up with the R&D tax credit to kind of stimulate the economy. Another goal of the R&D tax credit was to keep research and development on U.S. soil. One of the problems back then, back in the early 80s, was manufacturers and defense contractors figured out that it's a lot easier to pay someone in a foreign country a lot less than it is here to do the same amount of work. So they wanted to keep that knowledge source here in the U.S. So Section 41 is very similar to Section 174. The big difference between the two, Section 174 is a tax deduction, Section 41 is a tax credit. And I put together a little bit of a diagram, as you can see. Section 174 is much more large and encompassing compared to Section 41. Meaning there's a lot more expenditures and things that you can throw into Section 174 that you can't really pick up in Section 41. But in my experience working with research credits, I've never done a Section 174 study. Everybody does Section 41. And you think, well, why is that? You know, why do people do, you know, Section 41 when Section 174 is so much more large? You know, you can include so much more expenditures in that. So I put together this little diagram here that just kind of breaks down a deduction versus a tax credit. And you can actually find more information about this on Kipler.com. There's a really good article if you just put in the search engine deduction versus tax credit by Kimberly Langford. And so in this scenario, all things being equal, if you have $100 of income, this is based on a $20 tax deduction versus a $20 tax credit. Just follow the numbers down to the bottom. Tax deduction, effective tax rate, 28%, tax credit, 15%. You know, it's a no-brainer. This is why all of my clients choose Section 41 over Section 174. And again, to qualify for Section 41, there's only 4 criteria that you have to meet. If you meet these 4 criteria, you're performing research and development. So there's a misconception that research and development is performed by a bunch of guys walking around in lab coats carrying beakers. But if you meet this criteria, which is the tax definition, you're performing research and development and could qualify for a tax credit. First part, permitted purpose. So the activity has to relate to a new or improved product or process. Second part, it has to belong to one of the hard sciences. And this is your engineering, your physical sciences, and your chemistry, that kind of thing. Third and fourth part are the kind of the meat of the tax credit. The third part being the elimination of uncertainty, meaning when you're performing research and development, there has to be an unknown for it to qualify for research and development, meaning you can't know the outcome when you start creating a new product or process. If you know the outcome, then you're building something. And the fourth part, process of experimentation. This means that you just have to go through an iterative process to eliminate uncertainties. You know, you're building models, you know, testing hypotheses, that kind of a thing. Very quickly, I won't go over every one of these. A couple of the non-qualified activities. Again, anything conducted outside of the U.S. would not qualify. One of the big purposes of the research credit was to keep it here in the U.S. Another thing, reverse engineering, it's not considered research and development. If you take, say for example, an iPad, you take it home and you break it apart. You like, I want to see how this works because I want to build my own tablets. That doesn't qualify. That's not research. Eligible costs, wages, supplies, and contract research. Wages is the amount of time that you and your employees put into working on this research. Supplies, any supplies that you use to create your prototypes, to build your modeling, that kind of thing, qualifies. Outside contractors, if you're paying someone to do some work for you, that would qualify. For example, if you're building a jet engine and you want to test it and you don't have the ability to test it, you can hire someone to do that for you, that would qualify. So, 3 big takeaways here. Why the research credit, Section 41, is so important. 1, it stimulates economic growth. Secondly, it keeps intellectual property here in the U.S. And then third, it encourages business to invest in research and development. So you can sort of think about it like, this is, you can think about it like it encourages companies to spend money on R&D to keep the economy moving, that kind of a thing. Thank you.